Mode 1.
Some of y'all just love to argue just to be arguing. That's what I've realized about the YouTube environment. Some of y'all just like to be disagreeable just to be disagreeable. What am I referring to? Well, as you know, the vast majority of my YouTube videos, as opposed to my Patreon exclusive videos, is usually me offering responses and rebuttals, things that people send me through email or send me through Facebook direct message or Patreon direct message or in my comment section. And I briefly touched on this in my very last video on Wednesday, but I'm going to expand a little further. See, when it comes down to it, man, there's just a lot of guys who are hell-bent on trying to categorize that Mode 1 is only for this type of guy. I've been dealing with that. I can't even say that's exclusively a YouTube thing. I would say as far back as like 2010, 2011, 2012. I used to get that on various message boards and discussion forums and blog sites. People were trying to say Mode 1 is only for this type of guy. The two I've heard the most is Mode 1 is only applicable and beneficial to guys who are exceptionally good looking. On the man scale from 1 to 10, the man scale from 1 to 10 of looks, physical attractiveness, combined with sex appeal, a lot of guys will argue that Mode 1 only works for guys that are 8, 9, or 10s. 8, 9, or 10. As you know, that other popular dating coach, whose name shall not be mentioned, he said that on a video clip, on a few video clips actually. So that's the number one I hear, is that only good-looking guys can benefit from Mode 1. Second I've heard is only very wealthy guys can benefit from Mode 1. That's ridiculously false. That's ridiculously false. I mean, the first one is invalid, but I can halfway understand why guys believe that. But the second one, as far as you have to be rich in order, that's ridiculously invalid and false. Most notably by my own life. Most of you who know my backstory and know some of the details of my life starting with my early 20s know, man, for pretty much my entire 20s and my entire 30s, I was only 2 or 3 steps away from being flat broke. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was struggling. I was financially struggling. I was homeless 3 times when I lived in Los Angeles. 2/3 of the time I lived in Los Angeles, I didn't even have a car. And Los Angeles is a city more than arguably any other city that, like, you can survive in New York City without a car. And there's a couple other cities I know of that you can survive without a car. LA, Los Angeles is so spread out. It's very challenging to make it in Los Angeles without a car. But yet, man, I would say probably 2/3, maybe even 3/4 of the time I lived there, I did not even have a car. Yep. I lived there for about 6.5 years. And I only had a car for about 2 years of that 6.5 years. I only had a car. Yep. I had a BMW for about a year, which was nice. I had a BMW for about a year. I had this SUV I used to drive. It wasn't mine, but I had access to it for about roughly 6 months. And I had my brother's car. I had access to my brother's car for about 6 months while he was out of town. Yep. So anyway, yeah, that's ridiculous bullshit, man. I can name a lot of times I've benefited from all one without the benefit of having money. What's the third one I've heard? Now, here's the one that I've heard that's probably, for the most part, the most valid. The most valid. Well, there's two I've heard that are most valid. One is one I say myself, is that you have to have an exceptionally high degree of self-confidence and courage and backbone in order to benefit from one. That's probably the number one I will agree with, because I say that myself. So I agree with that. You got to have balls and backbone to benefit from all one. That's the one I agree with. And another one that I would say for the most part I agree with is guys who say that you have to have above average conversation skills, or what's otherwise known as a persuasively charming mouthpiece. A charismatic and persuasively charming mouthpiece in order to fully benefit from all one. Yes. For the most part, I would agree with that one. There's a couple of exceptions to that, but for the most part, yeah, that's true. So those latter two are true. Those first two are false. Those first two are false. But yeah, like I recently got an email. What was it, this morning? Either last night or this morning. Where a guy wrote the, typical stuff. Alan, I like you. But with all due respect, I've already pointed this out. These guys crack me up. Alan, I like you, but with all due respect. And remember in my next to last video, not my last video, but the one I did on last Saturday, almost a week ago, where I was talking about how some guy was trying to say that I tend to de-emphasize the 80-20 rule and the difference between select guys and non-select guys. Again, shout out to Ron Wills, because that's his terminology. I don't use that terminology in my books. Well, I got a similar email just last night or this morning, one of the two, where a guy said he was listening to my interview on Monday with the young brother named Bernard Riley. And he said, he basically said, yeah, Alan, if you notice during Bernard Riley's interview with you, he even said something to the effect of, he doesn't feel like you emphasize the fact that women have different criteria, treat good-looking guys better than they do not so good-looking guys, and smooth and seductive guys better than they do not so smooth and not so seductive guys. And I do remember the point when I was talking about my books, and young brother Riley said something like, he said, I don't remember his exact words, but something to the effect of, he said, Alan, I think the reason why you get blowback from a lot of guys is that you wrote 2 books, The Possibility of Sex and The Beta Male Revolution, that emphasize the dual mating strategy of women, but on a lot of your videos, you don't seem to emphasize the stuff you've written in your own books. Now, those weren't his exact words, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially that's what he said. He tried to say that, he basically was like, I'll give you credit for what you wrote in The Possibility of Sex and The Beta Male Revolution, but you don't seem to emphasize your own talking points from those 2 books in your videos. I had to give young brother Riley a post-interview, not a vicious one, just a mild, insert dog face here. All I got to say, all I would do is say this. I invite anybody to look through my archive of videos. Now, there are some videos that used to be a free YouTube video that have now transitioned into the realm of a Patreon exclusive video. So some videos used to be free to watch. Now you have to be a Patreon subscriber. But I got on YouTube in what, April of 2017? I've done a number of videos where I've talked about, matter of fact, I remember distinctly, just off the top of my head, I remember distinctly, one of my first videos when I got on YouTube was called something to the effect, I might mess up a few words, but it was basically called, Women Are Never Going to Unleash Their Inner Kinky Freak Side to Polite, Well-Mannered Beta Males. That was like one of my first 5 videos. I did a video called Women, Generally Speaking, Are Rarely Going to Unleash and Reveal Their Inner Kinky Freak Side to Polite, Well-Mannered Beta Males. And in that video, I talked about how women react to one guy versus another guy. For example, a total alpha male versus a beta male with alpha traits. I talked about that. I've talked about those type of themes on a number of my videos. So to echo what I said in my next to last video I did last Saturday, I've never tried to de-emphasize the effects of the 80-20 rule. I wrote, as I pointed out in that video last Saturday, I wrote 2 articles about the effects of the 80-20 rule on today's dating scene. I wrote one article when I used to write for the Examiner.com, and I wrote another article for the Negro Manosphere, O'Shea Duke Jackson site, the Negro Manosphere. So I've written 2 articles about the effects of the 80-20 rule on today's dating scene. I don't know why people keep trying to suggest that that's something I try to hide or de-emphasize. I don't even get that. I really don't. I'm starting to wonder about the intelligence of the men who watch videos on YouTube. And I hate to generalize by race, but if I had to introduce race into the realm, I would say particularly black males who watch videos on YouTube. But yeah, this guy wrote me this note, and he was saying that, I can't remember his exact words, but essentially he said, this is what he said. He said, Alan, here's what you need to understand that I don't think you're realizing. For us non-select guys, it's all about LMS. Anybody who's been a part of the manosphere for a few years should know what that acronym means. LMS. basically stands for looks, money, and status. Looks, money, and status. Wait, hold on a second. Looks, money, and status. Well, I'll say this. In these guys' defense, and I've mentioned this, I think, a couple times before. When I was young, I used to believe in what I call the old version of LMS. The old version of it. Yeah, I say starting with the age of, 12, 13, all the way up until the age of like 20, 21. I believed that the number one key to success was LMS, which stands for looks, money, and status. That those were the top three things that led to successful women. Only to later realize that successful women, in my opinion, as you've seen me point out on recent videos, is still, for the most part, about LMS, but it's a different version of LMS. It's a different version of LMS. See, the old version of LMS, again, centered around looks, your looks and your level of physical attractiveness. M, which stood for money, basically your degree of wealth, financial success, and most importantly, your level of financial generosity with women. And S, which stood for status, your degree of social status and or your degree of fame and popularity. Yeah. So I used to believe in the old version of LMS up until probably I was about 20, 21. I think most people know who own my book. If you own my book, Who'll Say It Again, which is my best-selling audiobook, you'll know that Verbal Seduction story number 1, the infamous triple date story, that was probably the first turning point for me. That's when my paradigm changed in regards to LMS. Was that infamous triple date story from Who'll Say It Again. That's Verbal Seduction story number 1. That happened in mid to late August of 1984 when I was 21. Yeah, that's when you could say that for me was my first turning point in me changing my attitude on the power of the old version of LMS. And I started slowly, over the next few years, I started slowly transitioning into adopting the new version of LMS, which is still involves your looks and level of physical attractiveness. So that's the one common denominator between the old version of LMS and the new version of LMS is your looks and level of physical attractiveness. M, instead of standing for money, M stands, in the new version, M stands for masculinity. Your degree of personal self-confidence and self-assurance, and your overall degree of masculinity and alpha male type erotic dominance. What I simply call a man's masculine sex appeal. Masculine sex appeal. That's what the M stands for in the new version of LMS, is masculine sex appeal. And the S, instead of representing status and fame and popularity, in the new version of LMS, S represents how charismatic, how persuasively charming, and just overall how seductive, how smooth and seductive your mouthpiece is, your verbal communication skills, your verbal seduction skills, your ability to engage in erotic dirty talk with women. How smooth and seductive is your mouthpiece? That's the new version of LMS. Now, since the one common denominator is looks, we can just strip away looks under both the old version and the new version, just leave the M and the S. And again, this relates to a video I did about 6 months ago. If you remember, I did a video about 6 months ago called a debate going on in the manosphere, and particularly the black manosphere, which was simply a debate about the importance of looks and mouthpiece versus the importance of financial success, material success, and status. Yeah, because that was kind of becoming, at least for a brief period of time, that was becoming an issue. And again, the guy who wrote me my most recent email in the last 24 hours, that's what he was hitting at. He was basically trying to tell me, Alan, you seem to be on the looks and mouthpiece side of the coin. You tend to be on the looks and mouthpiece side of the coin. And he was basically like, I ain't mad at you because you got it going on in those two areas. In the area of looks and having a persuasively charming, smooth, seductive mouthpiece. You got it going on in those areas. But he was trying to explain to me, he said, Alan, what I don't think you seem to understand is that us non-select guys, it's like all of a sudden all these non-select guys are trying to band together. Yeah, okay. But yeah, he's doing what of course what Mumia Sinan Ali. He claims he's the number one spokesman for non-select black heterosexual men. Non-select black heterosexual men. That's what he claims. That's what he kind of refers to himself as. The new number one spokesman for all the single heterosexual black men who are non-select. You know how I feel. N-word, please. But yeah, this guy was trying to tell me basically, Alan, I don't think you understand. I don't think you empathize with the guys who don't have it going on in the area of looks, who don't have it going on in the area of a persuasively charming and smooth and seductive mouthpiece. What about us? This is what he was basically saying. What about us? What can we turn to? We can't turn to Mode 1 because we don't have it going on in the area of looks and mouthpiece. See what I talk about when guys have just defeatist. Remember I did the video about men with negative, pessimistic, and defeatist type attitudes? See, now the argument among a lot of guys, particularly guys who are self-proclaimed non-select guys, is that they're starting to say that there's no hope for us. Self-improvement and personal development won't help us. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe that, trust me, it won't. It's that simple. You're telling me that as a man, specifically an unmarried heterosexual man, that you can't ever do anything to improve your looks. If you're too skinny, you can't gain weight in the form of muscle. If you're significantly overweight, you're telling me you can't lose weight. You're telling me there's not anything you could do to improve some aspect of the way you dress, your grooming, your personal hygiene. Nothing. You're telling me there's nothing you could do. Nothing. You telling me that if you have less than average conversation skills, that there's not anything you can do to improve your conversation skills. If that was true, I would be out of business. Let me repeat that. If that was true, that it was impossible for a single heterosexual male to improve his overall social skills, and more specifically, his conversation skills with women, if it was true that you couldn't do that, there was nothing you could do, I would be out of business. Real talk, I would be out of business, man. I'm going to mention this for the upteenth time, and it's not me bragging. But this is me pointing out something. For all those who try to undermine my business. Do you know I've made more money starting with calendar year 2006 through calendar year 2019? My income as a book author and dating coach has gone up every year except for 1 year, 2014. That was the only year I had a minor regression where I made less money that year than I did the year that preceded it. Yeah, 2014, I actually made less money than I did in 2013. But every other year, I made more money than I did the prior year. For example, in 2007, I made more money than I did in 2006. 2008, I made more money than I did in 2007. 2009, I made more money than I did in 2008, all the way up through 2019. Yeah, like in 2017, I made more money than I did in 2016. 2018, I made more money than I did in 2017. In 2019, which was just last year, I made more money than I did in 2018. My income has gone up. Your income does not go up if you're selling bullshit. I'm just going to keep it real. Your income does not go up over a period of what? 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Your income does not go up over a period of 14 years. If you're selling invalid bullshit, if I was some kind of scam artist or some kind of snake oil salesman, my income wouldn't keep going up like that. My income literally has gone up every year. 13 of the last 14 years, my income has gone up, again, with the exception. Only year where I didn't make more money than the previous year was 2014. And that's what motivated me to start turn my ebooks and paperbacks into audiobooks. Yeah, 2014, that was the year I first turned my ebooks and paperbacks into audiobooks. But yeah, man, my income wouldn't keep going up if I was selling bullshit. That's what I do. There's some things I can't do. And you remember I did that video called I'm Not a Matchmaker and I'm Not a Miracle Worker. I did that way back in 2017. I did a video called I'm Not a Matchmaker and I'm Not a Miracle Worker. Matter of fact, since I already brought up his name, that video was almost specifically in response to the controversial Afrocentric podcast of Mumia Obsidian Ali. Because I remember he tried to say back in 2017, he said, Alan Roger Currie shouldn't be a dating coach if he can't guarantee that a man is going to become an overnight ladies man, an overnight womanizer, or at minimum just be able to pull a number of women that are out of his league. That's what he basically said. He said, I don't feel like Alan Roger Currie or anybody else should call himself a dating coach if they cannot guarantee you that as a result of them listening to your advice, that men are not going to be able to become an overnight ladies man, an overnight womanizer, or at minimum just be able to pull a good number of women that are out of their league. And my response to his comment and criticism was, I'm not a matchmaker and I'm not a miracle worker. And I'm not. Say, number one, as far as out of your league thing, that doesn't fall in the category of a dating coach. That falls in the category of a matchmaker. That's why men and women hire matchmakers. Anytime you're looking to be hooked up with someone that meets a certain criteria, like they have a certain level of beauty, certain level of sex appeal, certain level of intelligence and education, certain family background, etc. See, then now you're getting into the area of a matchmaker. I'm not a matchmaker. That's why people hire matchmakers, both men and women. Yeah, that's literally the reason why people hire matchmakers, is when you want to connect with somebody that's of a certain pedigree, a certain quality, a certain caliber. That's when you go to a matchmaker. And that's how matchmakers make their money. What most matchmakers, and it varies from matchmaking to matchmaking, but generally a matchmaker, basically how they make money is they say, if you pay me, I don't know, $10,000, I guarantee you that I'm going to be able to find a man or woman that's up to your standards, that fits right with your specific criteria for a long-term romantic companion. That's what a matchmaker does. Now, matchmakers usually don't hook you up for casual sex. They only hook you up for long-term relationships, whether it's long-term monogamous or long-term non-monogamous. They only hook you up for not long-term companions. But yeah, that's the job of a matchmaker, is to hook you up with a woman that falls under your specific standards and criteria for a companion. And then a miracle worker, I'm already established. I'm not a matchmaker and I'm not a miracle worker. And what I mean by that is that if there's a guy, I've already used this example before. Let's say there's some guy who lives in, I don't know, Paducah, North Dakota. I'm just making up a city name. I don't even know if that's a real city. Paducah, North Dakota. And he's 5'5", weighs 350 pounds, got only 5 or 6 teeth in his mouth, dresses for shit, his grooming is for shit, and he only takes a bath or a shower once or twice a week. Hey, I don't care how many times that guy in Paducah, North Dakota reads and rereads all of my books or listens to and re-listens to all of my audiobooks, there's a 99% chance that I'm not going to help him be any type of overnight ladies' man or overnight womanizer. Now, at bare minimum, I'll probably still help him avoid a lot of manipulative time wasters, assuming he's run across some in his life. But other than that, I'm not a miracle worker, man. I'm not a miracle worker. But going back to my main point, there's always room for self-improvement and personal development. Always. There's some areas you just can't do anything about. Stuff like your height. I can't help a guy go from being 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", to being 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". I can't help you with that. Maybe there's somebody out there, a plastic surgeon or something, who can. I can't help you with that. There's some things I just can't help you with. That would be one of them. Height would be one of them. Your race and ethnicity. I can't change your race and ethnicity. If your problem is you're a black man and you can't attract non-black women, can't help you. If you're a white man and you having a hard time attracting non-Caucasian women, I can't really help you. I can't help you change your race or ethnicity. So next to height, that's the second most thing I would say. I can't help you change your age. If you're a man that's 55 and you're having problems pulling women in their 20s and 30s, I mean, I've pulled one. I'm 57 and I'm engaged to a woman that's 29. So that shows you it's not impossible. That shows you that's not impossible. Yeah, I'm 57 and my fiance is 29 years of age. When I met her, she was 28 and I was 56. She was literally half my age. So I'm a living testimony that the age difference thing is not impossible. What else are things that I cannot help guys on? I don't know. I mean, stuff to do, I guess, just with your facial features, the shape of your nose, the size of your head, color of your eyes. I mean, you know. If you hitting on women that prefer men with blue eyes and you got brown eyes, I mean, I can't help you other than to tell you get some color contacts or something. So there's some areas I cannot help you. I've always said that. I ain't never tried to deny that. There's some areas of a man's life that I can't help them. But on the flip side, there are other areas that I can. The main areas that I am able to help men, and I have, and it's documented that I have helped men, is I've helped men increase their level of self-confidence and self-assurance, just the way they carrying themselves in a more masculine manner. And the biggest area I've helped men is helping men improve their overall social skills with women, and even more specifically, their conversation skills, so that their conversation skills come across as more confident, more upfront and straightforwardly honest, more bold, more provocative. And I help men with their erotic dirty talk skills so they know how to talk dirty to a woman, be nasty with a woman, get a pussy wet. Which is how I got most of my pussy. Casual sex pussy. So, yeah. Some guys gonna always believe in the older version of LMS. And again, removing the two L's from each category, some guys gonna believe that it's their level of career success, their level of financial success, their level of academic achievement, the level of social status, fame, popularity, that's gonna be the key to success with women. And if you're a beta male, that will be the key to your success with women. Real talk. If you're a beta male, that will be the key to your success with women. But if you're a total alpha male, as I describe in my books, money don't mean shit. Career success, financial success don't mean shit. Social status, fame, popularity don't mean shit. Only thing that's important is your looks, your masculine sex appeal, and that charismatic, persuasively charming, smooth, seductive mouthpiece. Mode 1, baby. Quit making excuses. Quit making justifications for mediocre results. Be bold. Be daring. Go out and make something happen. Mode 1 style, baby.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.
I have to agree with you on the communication piece, because I actually did take a session with Alan Roger Currie, and he gave me a line that I did not think was going to work, and it worked. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God!
Curry guys, man, he's the master. He's the master of the verbal seduction. He got that communication piece down pat.
It really worked. It just simply worked, and I just didn't think it was going to work at all.
Verbal seduction, man. I'm like, clearly, this guy's the Michael Jordan of seduction. Like, come on now.